It
Hi.
is my very great pleasure to introduce the recipients of this year's University of Oregon Sustainable Campus Award. This new award, sponsored by the Office of the Vice President for Finance and Administration, expands the previous Campus Operations Award to include a wider array of work across our campus. The award recognizes an employee or team for the introduction of sustainability best practice into their department or unit's day-to-day work or their service to campus. This year's award went to catering and dining services for multiple projects and initiatives from the past year, including the transition to reusable diningware in campus dining facilities, steps to reduce food waste, including the use of the Lean Path system to reduce back-of-the-house food waste, and collaboration in the Leftover Textover program that notifies students when leftover food is available after events. And as well, we have the Low Carbon Footprint Dinner, which happened during Earth Week in 2019 and has led to more sustainable food choices in our dining venues since then. And this award goes to Tom Driscoll, Director of Dining Services, and the two amazing colleagues here with me today, Grace Godfrey, Sales Manager in Catering, and Lynn Alvarez, Assistant Director of Residential Dining. Welcome, Grace and Lynn.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you have done a lot in terms of sustainability in the past year. So why don't we start with the reusable dishware program? So for Lynn to start, what prompted you to transition to reusables, and what would you like the UO community to know about the initiative?
Well, there are several things. One was we had kept getting information regarding the chemicals that are used in the manufacturing of compostable plasticware, forks, spoons, knives, etc., and the other compostable ware that that the chemicals were leaching into the compost. And our composter was no longer going to allow post-consumer compostables. So those were two of the reasons. We also had recently, the city of Eugene had enacted a city ordinance in which we were required to ask, or our guests must ask for, disposable single-use items such as forks, spoons, knives, straws, etc. And so considering that we needed to hand those items out, as well as the post-consumer compostable items were no longer going to be composted, we really wanted to make a statement and switch over to the reusables. So we started with forks, spoons, knives, plates, bowls, and baskets. So some of our dining venues had already been utilizing the baskets and the plates and the bowls, but there was not a great emphasis all around campus on making sure that that was our go-to, and that it was conveyed to our students really well in a very clear fashion that they could take those items with them, they just needed to return them. And so I knew that it was going to take some education on the part of our students that were living with us in order to basically train them how we wanted to serve them their food. And we needed to get out to them that it was fine for them to take it back to their room, just bring it back. So we partnered with our zero waste folks in coming up with a campaign to train our students that live with us on what does it look like for dining services to, how can we train them or teach them, I should say, how to bring it back to their room, utilize it in any manner they want to, just as long as they brought it back to us in the end so we could reuse them. And so we were very successful in it. We also saved money as well. So it was, all in all, it was a great, successful first term with that. And so we were very excited about the results.
Great. Yeah, and I'm curious about another initiative that you've done in the past year or two to reduce waste, and that's the use of the Lean Path program. Which I'm guessing that if you could describe even what it is, I'm guessing most people won't even have heard of it, and then also how you've been using it to reduce food waste.
So the Lean Path program is a system whereby we can measure our waste and we can actually see it. So what we would do in the kitchen is we would take any waste, whether it was going to be composted or donated, and we could determine, or we put it onto the scale. The scale would then weigh it, but it would also take a photograph of it. And then we would get reports as well as the photographs of the items that where we needed to cut back, where we were overproducing, or where we ordered a little bit too much of something. And so basically the idea behind the Lean Path system was to change people's way of thinking about waste and actually viewing and seeing the waste. I mean, it's great that we do donate to Food for Lane County, but in the long run, it's better for your business if you're actually cutting back on what waste you have and your overproduction. And also looking at making sure that we're not over ordering, so something sits in the walk-in and goes bad before you're able to use it, things like that. And we had to accurately project, like you do in any restaurant business, what you anticipate serving, but also change our way of ordering and producing food.
Yeah. So sounds like ultimately sort of using the data that's coming out of it to get ahead of food waste before it can even happen as much as possible.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, great. And this next question is for Grace in particular. I'm curious about the Leftover Textover program, what it does and its sustainability value, but beyond food waste reduction.
Absolutely, and thank you so much for this recognition and this award. The Leftover Textover program is set up by the university. It was not a catering initiative. It was started by the Department of Finance, actually, and kind of a brainchild of some techs in that area that we're kind of wondering, how can we tackle food insecurity on campus, and how can we do it somehow digitally? Is there like a digital communication that we can do? So they paired up with us, and we were happy to partner with them because catering does have a lot of waste and leftovers. We have, large events sometimes that we have 200 people that are expected to come, only 150 people show up. And that means that there's leftovers. So the Leftover Textover program was set up last fall as a beta testing startup, and that went through the last school year. They went live out of beta testing fall of 2019, and we collect groups information, so the contact information, cell phone number, when we're doing the catering order. We do make sure that the group that we're working with, that their event makes sense for the Leftover Textover, meaning that there's going to be enough leftovers, and also that there's not like any conflicts with times, like a back-to-back meeting, something coming in the room right after their meeting that's not going to allow the time for the Leftover Textover. So what happens is 20 minutes before the end time of the event, the meeting organizer will get a text message saying, are there leftovers? Reply yes or no. When they reply yes, then a text goes out to all the students, faculty, staff that have identified as food insecure. Right now, I think there's about 1,000 people that have signed up for the program. So they will get a text saying, at this location, in 20 minutes, there will be leftover food. They have a map that pings right to the room. We can be super specific with the specific location. So if we're setting up buffet tables outside of the room, we can actually put the ping right outside of a meeting room, so it's not even disruptive to a meeting if it is like lunch and then they're going back into the meeting. The students and faculty staff that have identified as food insecure that have signed up for the program show up. They're to bring their own reusable containers, which is all part of the agreement that they've signed up with, and they fill up and be on their way. And we're happy to see that there's not a lot of food going into the trash. So it's been a really great program. Meeting organizers and food recipients have all been ecstatic about this addition this last year.
Yeah, I mean, I've used it for events and it's worked perfectly, and it's really, for me, I hate seeing food go to waste. So it's been wonderful to have this program that sort of students come in and, students, they can be like a plague of locusts, right? They will come in and it's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been real successful. So I encourage, if you haven't heard about it, ask catering about it and we can tell you all about it, and find out if your event is a right fit for it.
Great. And so this actually next question is about an event that's near and dear to my heart, which is the Low Carbon Footprint Dinner. So Lynn, what can you tell us about this event?
That was, well, we partnered with you on this last year, Sarah, and we tried to make it a fun and educational event for our students. We held the dinner in Carson Dining, but we also had an event outside of Carson Dining in the lobby where our chefs got to put on their creativity cap and create some fun, exciting low carbon footprint bites. And we had the low carbon footprint bite competition, whereby the winner got to have bragging rights for the next year. And of course, what chef doesn't want to compete and have bragging rights? So it was a fun event. We had a lot of students come and attend that. And then they also got to learn about what is something that's low carbon footprint, what does it mean? And we had an educational aspect. We had stickers put on the all of our menus across campus for the rest of the year, indicating which items were low carbon footprint items. And we also had charts explaining what it means to be low carbon emissions, or as far as that goes in food processing. And so it was great to bring that information to students, as well as some delicious food items.
Yeah. And one thing I'll say that I really like about it is that the data showed that eating a more plant-based diet, as well as reducing food waste, are the two most impactful things that individuals can do to mitigate climate change. So it's one of those things that is an individual choice thing that has a real impact as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So that's a lot of stuff that y'all have been doing. So I'm curious, what are the impacts to students in terms of learning and research, and also living from this work that you've been doing?
Let's see, as far as impacts to our students, I think that the students very much were appreciative of the reusables in the dining venues. I think that once the idea was set out there for them that, you know, I can bring this back to my room, I just need to bring it back, it no longer became interesting or exciting to stockpile them in their rooms. Whereas in the previous times we've seen different unique ideas for different sculptures and things like that that students have created out of the baskets that they took back to their room, or they would have competitions on who could have the highest stack. And I think it became less interesting. So I think that was beneficial to us. And I do think that they very much appreciated it. We heard a lot of positive comments about the reusables and not having to throw so much into the garbage.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Grace, do you have anything to add about impacts to student life and learning?
Yeah, you know, I think that we're so fortunate to be able to work with so many young people, students. You know, we have bright minds that are asking why all the time, and I think that's really the key to it. Is you know, when you're in an industry and you've been working in it, you know, years and years and years, sometimes you get kind of stuck in a rut. And I think that students come in and they bring that why attitude. And I think that they are really focused on sustainability. So I think it's wonderful to work with students, and they're bringing lots of great ideas and enthusiasm to the projects.
Fantastic. So this is my final question, which is, why do you think it's important to engage with these sustainability topics at the UO? And I'm thinking here of what we call the three-legged stool of sustainability that includes environment, equity, and economy. So feel free to talk about whichever pieces resonate most with you and with your work.
For me, the reduction in the waste has been very important for me. I know that earlier on you stated that one of the things that people can do as individuals is reduce, you know, how much waste they produce, food waste, and the low carbon footprint eating. But one thing that I considered in the position that I'm in at the university, I felt like one person could make a big impact in you know, pushing forward with this idea of the reusables. And so I really was committed to that, just so that I could see what sort of impact we could potentially have. And I saw the impact in fall term and winter term. And so looking forward to potentially adding more items that are reusable in the future.
Great. What about you, Grace?
Can you repeat those 3 E's again?
Yeah, environment, equity, and economy.
Okay, great. I think that, you know, the University of Oregon, I think, is a lot of times we're setting the example for our community. And I think that the leftover text over program, Lean Path, you know, Lynn talked about, reducing the carbon footprint, and also reducing our overall just like waste, we're setting an example. We're stewarding the student staff and students to kind of learn to, you know, protect the earth and move forward in a sustainable way. So I think it's definitely multi-leveled, where there is that big teaching and learning component for the students, as well as the good work that we're doing in just reducing waste overall.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you both so much for your time and for the work that you're doing. And congratulations again on your award.
Thank you.
Thanks. It's very exciting.